to another episode of Meet a Writer. And I'm incredibly happy once again because together we have a new guest today. And I'm going to introduce her as DM Batten because that's what we've agreed upon. And welcome. Woo! Hello.
Hi, thank you very much for having me here. This is amazing that you offer this opportunity to indie writers, and I thank you so much.
Oh, come on. Thank you for coming and for sharing your story, for sharing your writing, and for also giving me the chance to explore new writers. And also, why not connect and have new friends here in the community? And that's one of the most incredible things about this is that I get to know lots of people and I get to have lots of friends, which I'm very happy about. So, thank you for coming. And before we get into like the main interview of us talking about your writing, of us talking about your pieces and everything that we will discuss later on, I wanted to get to know you a little bit and give a chance to the audience to get to know you a little better. So, would you mind telling us a few things about yourself?
Absolutely. So, I am a college English professor. I've been doing that for about 5 years. And prior to that, I taught junior high and high school. So, that's been my life for the last 20 years. In addition to that, I'm also a PhD student working on my dissertation right now. So, very busy. And somehow found the opportunity to write in between. And so, I'm really blessed that I had all those opportunities come to me, and started out meager beginnings, built my life around being able to overcome obstacles and being able to present hope in my life, and especially spiritually. And I want to present that to others. And that's really why I started writing.
That is so special. And how do you even manage to do all of it? I have no idea how you're doing it.
I'm not exactly sure either. I would say more than anything, it's having a goal. And I knew that I wanted better for myself. And I knew that I wanted to be able to take care of my family. And more than anything, I knew that I wanted to give something back to the world because I felt like I had something inside me that needed to be expressed. And I found writing to be the best medium because, like you said, it connects so many different people from all different walks of life.
Absolutely. And whatever you said was very inspiring. Just the fact that you want to give something in return to the world. And I am really inspired by that. And I can't wait to read your book later on. And one thing, are you kind of connecting from the US? Am I right?
Yeah, I'm actually in Florida, so that's quite a ways away from Armenia.
Yeah, absolutely. Like so far away, but at the same time, I'm very happy that we have platforms like this one where we can actually connect and from different parts of the world and get the opportunity to get to know each other because I think that otherwise we wouldn't have the opportunity to meet, which is pretty awesome to me.
Well,
That's
I can definitely tell you this too. One of the things that I've noticed by meeting people around the world is how much alike we are. And there's so much divide in the world. To be able to actually meet people one on one, you realize you are very much just like everybody else.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with this, and that's one of the beautiful things I feel like about the world, and especially about writing as well, because I feel like people who have the same passion, the same dreams, and the same mindset have the chance to meet each other and to also, why not, uplift each other, knowing how hard it is to be in that sphere, you know?
Absolutely.
And so let's get into your journey of how you started writing and why did you start writing and just the whole story, whatever you want to share about that journey, because that's one of my favorite questions. And I feel like I always keep what, even if I change all the questions in the interviews based on the person, I always keep that question because I feel like that's the, like the enlightenment moment where you get that you want to write, that you have something that you want to share or that you want to express and you want to do it in writing. So yeah, the floor is yours.
Okay. So I guess the first time I started writing, I was in the third grade and I was reading a lot of Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys books. And I decided that I wanted to write mystery. And so my grandma had bought me a Brothers typewriter, one of the old ones that had the screen and you couldn't make a single mistake.
Uh,
And basically, I started typing stories, and I didn't even really know at that time because I was so young what it was I was actually doing. But from that point on, I had a joy of reading and a joy of writing. And that moved into my teenage years when I started writing more poetry, I think because I was trying to figure myself out. And there's a lot of things that I talk about, even in my book, that have to do with this journey that kind of is accompanied by writing at every step. So, and then that brought me into wanting to be an English professor when I was in the eighth grade and fighting for that dream through all kinds of what seemed at the time insurmountable obstacles. So that's what leaves me here today and leaves me continuing to write because I can't see my world any other way.
that's and I fell in love with the last sentence, because when you start writing and then there comes a moment where you're like, I can't imagine my life without writing, and I feel like that's one of the most beautiful things ever. And I don't know, I just love that because there have been times where I was thinking that I should give up on writing because I felt like I wasn't good at it. I felt like I was comparing myself to like Shakespeare, and that was the wrong thing to do. I was like, he is the talented one. You're not talented. And I thought about giving up. And then how many times, even if like I thought about giving up, and then a few times I actually gave up for like, I don't know, 1 day, 2 days, and then I was like, no, I just can't do that. I really can't.
Well, let me tell you, at least as an English teacher,
Yeah.
I teach students that don't know how to write at all, how to be able to write. And everybody has, like you said, that story in them, but also that ability. A lot of it has to do with confidence, just knowing that you matter and that what you write is going to be enough. And
Yeah.
some of the most beautiful things come out of some people that I've worked with that have never written before in their lives. So, and you should not give up on your writing because I'm going to plug you right back here. I've read your writing online and it is beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks for the beautiful words, and also for the motivation as well, and also for the feedback as an English teacher, because that means a lot. But yeah, I know what you're saying, because I'm usually the person who is kind of like pushing everybody to not give up and then also continue writing, because I'm like, no, what are you saying? Like, everybody, even if, let's say, your language is not perfect, your language has some mistakes or anything, it doesn't matter, as long as it has that idea, as long as it has that personal thought and emotion and everything in it, and that's what matters the most. So yeah, thank you so much for doing that to me. To, like, literally coming back to that. And also, you've shared with me a few of your poems that you've written when you were 15, when you were 16, which are gorgeous, and I wonder if you're ever going to share that with the audience.
Thank you. So I'm publishing the memoir first, and it is a 20-year in the making memoir. So that needs to come out first. And then I'm thinking about publishing a small book of poems as well, like a chapbook, so that I can share kind of like that journey and it'll go with the book.
Yes,
So
yes, yes. Please, please do. And I later on. Okay, so let's just wait for that poetry book to come out as well, and then we'll do an interview on that. But as you also touched upon the topic of memoir, we can go ahead and talk about that. Do you want to tell us the story of your book and, yeah, all the details about it?
okay. So to start with, I was raised by my grandmother because some things happened when I was very little with my parents and they were out of the picture. And so I talk a little bit about that, but I always thought that starting out a book and talking about every single detail of your life is not really authentic. Like, I share those things so you can understand my journey, but the real journey begins in my teenage years and early coming of age experience. And it also deals with the idea of coming out in the LGBT community because I was recognizing my own sexuality at the time and trying to figure out my place in the world. And so I speak about a lot of things that people can definitely relate to, but haven't been discussed enough yet. And even as an English teacher, I don't see enough of it in the literature that I'm teaching other students So one of the things that I kept thinking while I was writing is, I'm not just writing this for me. I'm writing this for the younger version of me that needs this. So there's that inspiration behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I really like how you're saying that you're writing also for the younger version of yourself, because sometimes even if we grow up, like physically grow up, mentally grow up, and emotionally, sometimes there's this, I don't know how to call it, whether it's like a trauma or some kind of a pain or somewhere, let's say somewhere in the heart that hasn't been healed fully. And then there are some things that you actually have to address yourself to be able to heal from that. So I like how you're saying that you're writing for yourself, because it might also help you heal and also kind of fill the gap that you see in your heart, or in, or I don't know, in just the story or of the flashbacks that you're getting from time to time. And I feel like I really hope that it helps you do that, because that's really important.
And even more so that somebody else going through those same things can see that I had an authentic journey through them, that I'm not just smiling through it all the time. And one of the most amazing things that came from that is what you were just saying, that whole spiritual enlightenment. And so as you read through the story, you'll also notice that I went from experiencing spirituality on many different levels, but then realized that I was in a twin flame journey as well. And that is such a unique path that only really has gotten any traction of being discussed maybe in the last 5 to 10 years. And so I'm really happy that I get to share that as well, because the people that have been a part of that, it is beyond my imagination, and it's been a magical experience. So
Yeah, that is really really important. And how, and it's really important that you're saying that you're being very authentic. And I, sometimes it feels like in this world of social media, let's say, sometimes it's hard to fully be yourself, and then everybody expects everybody to be very, um, I would even say like perfect at everything and perfect in everything.
yeah,
So sometimes being authentic becomes really hard, because you don't want to be that person who's imperfect in any sense. So being authentic takes a lot of courage and confidence and energy and everything, because I feel like even when I am writing, one of the things that I always keep myself kind of keep track of, I'm like, you have to be authentic. If you don't feel like it, just don't write that, unless you actually feel that way. I wouldn't say that, like, whatever I'm posting, it's not like that at that moment I'm fully going into that. Sometimes it's like my emotions take over and then I write some of the things. But what I'm also saying always about my writing is that if I post it, then in a way I've felt that, whether it's like about me, whether it's about my friend, or about something that I've heard or something like that. So I've always felt it, and that's what I feel like really keeps people with your piece. It's the fact that you're being authentic. And and something that you've shared with me before this interview, when you've shared like the summary of the book, you used an expression that I really wanted to talk about, was like almost too honest, which was so beautiful to me. It's like, what do you mean by that? Do you regret being that honest, or maybe like you feel like it was just, I don't know, like, tell me about it.
I think more than anything, because I wrote from the heart, and when I read it back, I noticed how multifaceted everything was. So I could come at a discussion of something pure and raw, and then read back through it and be like, number one, I can't believe I lived through that. And number two, I can't believe I talked about that. But I mean, of course, there's that healing journey that comes with it, and that's cathartic. But then there's this larger part of it, which is like, if I can have this book reach one person going through that same thing, who's about to have a bad outcome, who finds that hope in reading my book and can overcome darkness by it, then I've done what I'm supposed to do on earth. Like, it feels larger than me. And I know a lot of authors say that their book is like a calling because they feel the need to write. But I felt not only the need to write, but the need to share, because if somebody else is going through that, I don't want them to have to go through the negative aspects of that. I want them to see somebody who's gone through it and gotten through it. So I
Yeah,
always tell people, if you can go through it, you can get through it.
that is very, very beautiful. And just the fact that I'm quoting you here, you wrote, you were like, to a wide audience looking for an authentic voice of lesbian liberation through the almost too honest account of love, loss, and rekindling. And I wanted to know whether, like, you don't have to spoil everything, but I just wanted to know, like, in terms of the story, do you feel like that story has ended, like, not ended because your life continues, meaning like everything else continues as well, but is the part of the story that you want to cover in the book like complete,
I
or do
think
you
it
feel like there's going to be a continuation later on?
there will definitely be a continuation. I think it's kind of taking snapshots of different segments or chapters, so to speak, in my life. And it only spoke up to like 5 years before now. So there's a lot that's happened since then. And especially publishing the book itself has been its own journey. And I have the blessing of being married now for 7 years, been with my wife for 15, and have a twin flame relationship as well. And that doesn't mean that I'm with that person. That person is actually happily with someone else right now, but that there was recognition. And that's something that I don't speak of as much in the first book, that will come up in the second book. But first, I wanted to show people that that experience is not this huge romantic gesture that everybody thinks it is. Soulmates are beautiful things, but twin flame journey has to do with introspection and being able to see yourself in someone else and literally sinking to their best and their worst parts and being able to embrace that. And that's kind of one of the joys of being able to share it with everybody else, is that I get to show an authentic twin flame experience.
That's beautiful. And also what's beautiful is the fact that I I was the first one, hopefully the first one, to know that there's going to be a second part of the book, because I'm pretty sure that that kind of a journey needs a continuation to know, like, what happened next. Like, are you happy, or do you feel like now you can kind of finally rest when it comes to that journey, and then you've healed already and you already want to continue with the other part of the life, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think a lot of that too comes from the fact that you're going to have ups and downs throughout life. And it's just a matter of how you're going to react to them. And part of writing is that you get to have that reaction without having to physically have it. So you can feel all of what you feel. And, like, once again, be truthful about the experience and not just say what people might want to hear, but say what needs to be said.
Yeah, and it's really hard differentiating between those things, because it's, again, it takes a lot of confidence and courage to do that. Again, it comes back to being authentic, and also like having that. I think it also comes with time, whenever the peak happens, when you're like ready to do it. And that's really, really important to be able to go through all of those experiences and wait for the time when you're actually ready to do it, when you're actually ready to do what you need instead of what other people like need to hear. And I know that obviously there were ups and downs, and especially it's a very, very personal book. So were there moments when you like couldn't write, or just, I don't know, just, it was too much for you and you were like, oh, maybe I should not just continue writing that, or some, yeah.
Absolutely. I think that during some of the more sensitive moments, or what you would say were a bit harder to write, I had to take a few shots at it. So the first time I sat down to write, I might not have been able to get everything that I wanted to express out. But one of the great things about that is that I got to kind of review the experience and get over it through the writing. And I went and spoke with a lot of the people, some of which are mentioned in the book, that were part of those experiences And I was able to kind of validate that what I had seen of the experience was the same thing that they saw. And so as I'm reading it to them, it brought them back and they're remembering, even, in negative, dark times, all the beautiful things that can come out of it. Tupac once wrote about a rose that grew from concrete, if you've ever read that poem before. And I think that's exactly where I came from. I've had times that I was homeless. I've had times where I've gone through different traumas, as we spoke of, and loss. And yet I was able to make something out of it. And I'm able to be that inspiration or that guide or that mentor for someone else that might be going through those things, even in my teaching life. And that's why I love being an English teacher, because I get to show them Maya Angelou's work, or I get to show them, this new voice, different ethnicities, different genders, all the opportunities of voices to be out there and heard. And especially in America, it's something in the 21st century that really needs to happen, because we've had a very minimized voice. The first thing you spoke of was Shakespeare. And that's even over in Armenia, right? And we are more than Shakespeare. He is a fantastic writer, but he is not the only one. So we
Yes.
can't compare ourselves to anybody else but who we are and what we have to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he is, and that was a very big struggle to me when I was like always comparing myself, like when it comes to writing, especially, I would always compare myself to the biggest writers and the biggest, let's say, poetry writers and then authors and everything, and I would be like, maybe you should not do that. And then I was like, okay, no, just don't compare yourself to them, because even if they're brilliant and even if they're considered to be like the classics, you can't stop doing it, because if again, it feels like betraying yourself and not giving your passion enough credit and your love and the the reason why you started writing enough credit, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you had to describe your writing to anybody who has never read it, how would you describe your writing? Maybe like in a few words or expressions as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. So the way that I was able to kind of get it published was through explaining what it connects to. So I would say that if Perks of Being a Wallflower and Dawson's Creek had a love child with a little smidgen of Shameless and a hint of Party Monsters, that would be this book. So
Wow. That was a beautiful way of putting it. It's almost like you knew I was gonna ask that question, even if you didn't.
no, I looked at all the influences throughout my life. I went through the 1990s rave scene in the United States, which was amazing, and it's its own experience and something that can never be duplicated. And then I went from that to being in a PhD and, giving conference speeches to thousands of people. So it's just these different parts of life that have made up a full life, and all the different parts, the Shameless and the Dawson's Creek aspects. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
What is a favorite line that you've written? Like the most favorite line that was written by you. It can be from the book, it can be from the poetry that you've written. Yeah, from anywhere. Even from the like thesis that you're writing a thesis, right? For PhD. Well,
Yeah.
so it can be taken from anywhere.
I think it would be that all we have in life are moments.
It's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
That's very true in so many different aspects. And I feel like if not like everybody, then most of the people will connect to this, because that's pretty much all we have. And to me, those are the most expensive things in the world that you can't buy for money, and you can't ever, they can't be taken away from you. And even if, like, let's say somebody is not next to you, somebody has passed away, somebody, I don't know, something happened, but all of those moments are always with you, and that is just yours and nobody can take that from you.
Just like this beautiful moment that we're having right now. And I thank you once again so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, because I am really, really enjoying this talk, and um, connecting to people like you through even like a 1 hour call, or maybe like 30 minutes, however long it is. It always like fills my heart with so much love and so much positivity, because sometimes, I don't know if it happens to you, but sometimes it happens to me. It's like I'm like, okay, there's people have become so different from each other, and then I'm struggling to find people like me sometimes. As much as I feel like there's beauty in being different and being unique, which is incredible, but at the same time, you just want to bond with people over the same things, and that's what I really like about people in writing, is that there's something unsaid that is similar in all of us, which connects us on another level. And that's why I'm enjoying to the fullest doing this interviews and having people talk about their writing, because even just seeing them and seeing how their eyes always sparkle when they talk about writing and their own stories is truly inspiring, and I don't know, and touching to me. So thank you for being here and for doing this with me.
Thank you. I'll say one other thing. What you're speaking of is also the soul journey that is life, because we're not just here having a physical experience, we're having a spiritual one. And it doesn't matter what religion or what you believe in, it's just the idea that there's more to us than the sum of our parts. And so it's kind of that soul based connection that brings us together. And that's what the writing does, is that it gives us the opportunity to see inside the soul.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also gives us the opportunity to put meaning in things that might not have a meaning, or in things that people don't really see the meaning, and then you just actually give meaning to everything pretty much with words. Yeah. And I really like that. How would you say that you connect teaching and writing together? How do you balance those out, and how do you bring those two into each other's worlds?
I would say to start that my writing experience helps me be able to teach students how to be descriptive and how to bring ideas out. And then this actually ties into my PhD as well. One of the things that I'm doing right now is establishing critical theory that deals with the idea of using experience as strong evidence of something that someone interprets out of a text. Currently, it's called experiential critical theory. And like I said, I've already started the studying for it. It's just a matter of finishing the dissertation of it. And it allows students to use their individual voices, a lot of which have been marginalized throughout the years, to show how they're interpreting something that they read, because we can't stay in the past forever in the way that we're being taught. And a lot of what teachers tell you to do is listen to what the greats have said about literature instead of experience literature for yourself. And I want to bridge that with the scientific aspect of it to prove that your memory and your experiences are just as important.
You can't even imagine how relatable your statement was to me, because one of the things and one of the reasons why I was not as fond of, mm, wouldn't say like literature, but just like talking about literature and just going into the classical pieces that you study at schools, was the fact that you pretty much didn't have your own opinion, and even if you did, you didn't have the right to talk about it, because if you, let's say, criticized, or not even like criticized, maybe even like questions that something that was written by one of the best poets or one of the best authors, you you didn't have, basically it was just an unwritten rule that you didn't have the right to do that, because if you did, the teachers would be like, what are you talking about? They're amazing. So like, how do you feel like you have that credit, or you have that power to be able to criticize or judge their writings? And that's when my experience with the university was different, absolutely different. And that was the first place in the educational, like, let's say, in academia, where I was able to say what I thought and what I felt about a writing. And the instructors were like, oh yeah, interesting, go on, like, yeah, of course, tell me what you think, why do you think that way? And they made me feel like everybody's opinions mattered equally. Even if somebody liked that amazing, brilliant piece, somebody else doesn't. And then they have a reason for it. They're not like, oh, yeah, I just don't like it because I feel like it's boring and that's it. You were actually giving reasoning. And that was one of the best things to me. And that was one of the reasons why I was so passionate about learning at the university. Yeah, it was like, again, I was learning, I was working hard when I was at school as well, but I wasn't as passionate, because being able to express yourself and say what you think about a literature piece or anything that is written is really, really important.
Absolutely. And I think that that also translates back to your writing too, because you're influenced as you read things, you're influenced by the way that they write. And so you get to take that little piece of them with you, and it comes back out when you write for others.
Yeah, absolutely. And now that I kind of have that freedom of discussing it myself, of also thinking and critically analyzing it myself, I feel like I fall in love with all of those pieces even more, because in the past I was just like forced to love it. But
Mhm.
now I kind of come back to it naturally, which I think is more correct than actually telling students that they have to like something, that they have to respect somebody. And yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I know that a lot of people are experiencing it just like I am, the fact that sometimes, like, having that imposter syndrome as a writer. And then I wanted to know, what would you give as a piece of advice for people who are afraid of writing, or they think they're not good enough, or they have any kind of fear connected to writing?
I would probably tell them to start out just writing anything, just free write from, the blank recesses of your mind, get it down. And then think about, what did you find joy in while you were writing? That's what you should write about. I even tell my students when they do assignments, I try to leave them very open ended, because I don't want somebody to write about something that I want to read about. I want them to write about something they're passionate about, because that's going to show, and it's also going to make them want to put in the effort. And so they'll show up every day, they'll go and do the work, and they'll enjoy doing it. And that just creates, a snowball effect where they gain the confidence and they gain the ability to express themselves more freely over time.
Oh yeah, I love that. That something that they are passionate about, because that's when you truly have even the motivation to write. And then otherwise, when you're put in like limitations, which is, I again, part of the education and educational system, which in a way, again, is, I feel like, very helpful and very important. But also having that place where you can be free, and have the opportunity to kind of express yourself fully, and then don't have limitations, is very, very beautiful. And again, having that chance to also start and not think about anything else, just like you said, is truly important, because sometimes we underestimate how important it is and how easy it makes things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, when is your book coming out? When can we get the chance to read it?
So my book comes out March 29th. Pre-orders will be available March 22nd. And yeah, if you want to know more about it, you can go to my Instagram at DM Batten, and follow my book journey with me, because I don't I don't see it as just being there because I have a book. I see it as having started a journey with everybody, including you and everybody else I've met. And so I would love for you guys to see kind of how this process works from the inside as well. So looking forward to doing my cover reveal and having an opportunity to chat with more people, hopefully as nice as you. So,
Oh, thank you. And yeah, I know that I can't reveal the cover, I can't reveal the title of the book. So we
yeah.
have to wait and see. And I'm going to be also putting your Instagram in the description of this video so that people can go ahead and check it out fully, but at the same time, wait for updates from you. And also kind of wait when it's fully out so that we can experience it and get back to you with all of our thoughts and emotions and yeah, the things that we want to tell you about the book.
And Laura, let me just preface the cover, of course, I got to wait a few days on, but I can give you the title. The title is The Heart Wants What It Wants, A Destined Twin Flame Journey.
We got the title, which is, I mean, I knew the title, but it was great that we were able to also share it here. But also, do you also want to tell us how you came up with the title?
Absolutely. So I
Is it an
started
inspiration from Selena Gomez?
that, definitely we could look at it that way, but that wasn't necessarily the inspiration. It just kind of came together. I think it's the idea that I have these two different women that are so important in my life. One that I've chosen to take a physical life journey with in a marital sense, and then one who's my best friend who experiences life kind of parallel to mine and has gone through a lot of things similar to me, which is part of that whole journey that I speak about more. Um, and so I wanted to point out that the heart is not your mind. It's not about thinking about it. If you think about it too much, you typically mess it up. Um, so I was honest with both of them. I came to both of those relationships, one very young, one a little bit, later on, with the knowledge of how I felt and really knowing myself. And so the heart wants what it wants. There's no reasoning with it. You just have to go with it. And then the destined twin flame journey, I think the reason I learned that is because of this journey. And I'm happy to still be on it and still be creating. And yeah, I definitely have some more things to say after this book. So
Oh yeah, I can't wait to read it. I'm waiting. I'm actually looking forward to it to be able to kind of have it in my hands and then actually read it and know the whole experience and the whole story that you're talking about. So all of us are waiting for the book. We hope that the time flies once again, so that we get to experience it. And if you have some, I don't know, concluding thoughts or words, the floor is yours. And yeah, and then I'll say what I think, and then yeah, we'll be over.
I guess the best thing I could say is that I write so that I can help empower people. And that if there's one wish that I can have for what this book can do, it's that it gives somebody else agency. It lets them feel more comfortable expressing their own voice. It helps them deal with any negative things that they've gone through. And it encourages them to keep pushing forward. Because at the end of the day, that's exactly what I did in publishing it. It's what I do every day with my students, encourage them to do. And that's, pretty much been my life and what I want to share. So, yeah.
I am absolutely sure that it's gonna serve its purpose because the way that you've put all of your heart in it is obvious, and I am always sure that whenever somebody puts their heart in something that they're doing or saying, it's a obvious, and b, it's always touching people's hearts, because those people who appreciate that, who appreciate all of those emotions, are always the ones who also get touched by that, and they're going to appreciate, whether they've had that experience or not, whether they've been in your shoes or not. And absolutely sure that it's going to be very, very beautiful. And I feel like from the voice of the audience, I also have to thank you for writing that experience down, because I'm sure that lots of people are going to relate to that experience, and also are going to learn even other things. Not sometimes we have just one thing to share, but at the same time there's lots of subtext and sub lines that people go into and learn lots of other things as well. So I'm pretty sure that it's going to happen as well with your book. So thank you for sharing it with us, and we're going to wait for that book to come out. And also, just to say in like conclusion, once again, thank you for coming here and for sharing the story and for getting to also come here and talk to me, and also for building this friendship, because no matter how much we like text online, sometimes it's really not sometimes, I would even say like always, it's the best option that we can come up here and meet each other like this and get to know each other better. And yeah, once again, thank you, because it's special to me that you also, you said that I was the first one of the first interview that you were doing, but for this book, which I'm very, very thankful for. And yeah, it's kind of an honor, you know. So I'm very, very thankful, and I'm wishing you the best luck with the book and its release and the feedback. It's gonna be awesome, trust me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And yeah, I look forward to talking with everybody about my book. Come see me on Instagram at DM Batten.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for joining this episode, and we'll have more episodes soon. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, because it was awesome to me. So, see ya, guys. Bye.